Hello strangers and story lovers, and welcome to my lair. Today we're talking about Iron Flame, the second book in the Empyrean saga by Rebecca Yarros. Of course I would publish a video explaining why I think Violet Sorrengail is not a Marisu, only for Iron Flame to prove me wrong. That aside, general thoughts on the book. This was a chore. I really struggled reading it. Every time I had to read it, I was just like, oh god, no, I don't want to. I didn't particularly like Fourth Wing, but to be honest, Fourth Wing never felt that horrible to read. I really struggled with Iron Flame. So to give you an idea where Fourth Wing, I gave it a 2 stars, and to be honest, I would probably have given it a 2.5 because at least it was kind of entertaining. Iron Flame, I gave a 1 star. It was just, when I was not bored out of my mind, I was incredibly frustrated at the characters. Like, you know, Fourth Wing, I think is okay. Like, is it cringe? Yes, the writing is beyond cringe. Is Basquiat College a bit dumb, and like the function and the way it works a bit like dumb? Yes, it is. But it was entertaining. This boredom and frustration were the only emotions I felt reading this book. I felt like a lot of the problems came from both Violet's and Xaden's Marishoisness being like taken up a notch, like to the maximum. Well, maybe not to the maximum, but still taken up all the way up. And a lot of the issues that I had came, I think, from that and the fact that honestly this book just felt like absolute filler. Like, I really was reading it thinking, when is anything of substance going to happen? And the one moment where something of substance did happen, it actually didn't have that much of an impact, I felt. I'll talk about it a bit later in the spoiler section, but it was basically just same thing somewhere else. Very disappointing. So yeah, general thought, way too self-indulgent. Violet is a complete Marisu, Xaden is a complete Marisu as well. This book was complete filler. Violet and Xaden both make the absolute transitions into Marisu. For me, I was explaining in my past video, and in my video specifically for Marisus, I'll add the links in the descriptions. I was explaining that to me, a Marisu, what really makes a Marisu is that they're basically like a weed, like they're going to like nerf all the other characters and suffocate them just so they can end up looking better. And I didn't feel like this was what we were doing in book 1, but in book 2 definitely we are there. We are nerfing all of the other characters. And it gets to a point that no character is allowed to contribute to the plot in a significant way other than Violet and Xaden. They're the only ones who are left to like being even semi-competent and contributes to anything that's even a little bit plot relevant, which leaves us with a swollen cast of ever-growing pointless characters. It is insane. The amount of characters in this book just becomes absolutely ridiculous, and we do nothing with any of them. Violet and Xaden also end up having the same conversation, I think at least 6 or 7 times. It was absolutely exhausting. And it really annoys me because I really wanted to enjoy my time with this book, because I didn't have a terrible time with the first one. It was a bit, as far as I'm concerned, a little bit of a so bad it's good. Like, it was entertaining. Yes, it was cringe. Yes, it was way too self-indulgent, but it can still be fun. I sadly, I didn't really have any fun in this book, which really annoys me because, like I said, I did want to like it. But yeah, no good times were had with this book, and honestly, it makes me sad. But anyway, let's just go into something a bit more constructive. As usual, there will be a spoiler-free section and a spoiler zone. And don't worry, I will let you know before we start spoiling, so you can jump off the video. So first, let's start with the spoiler-free zone. Everyone expected Violet Sorrengail to die during her first year at Basquiat War College. Violet included. But threshing was only the first impossible test meant to weed out the weak-willed, the unworthy, and the unlucky. Now the real training begins, and Violet's wondering how she'll get through it. It's not just that it's grueling and maliciously brutal, or even that it's designed to stretch the rider's capacity for pain beyond endurance. It's the new vice commandant, who's made it his personal mission to teach Violet exactly how powerless she is, unless she betrays the man she loves. Although Violet's body is weaker and frailer than everyone else's, she has her wits and a will of iron. Leadership forgets the most important lesson Basquiat taught her. Dragon riders make their own rules. But determination to survive won't be enough this year, because Violet knows the secret hidden for centuries at Basquiat War College. And nothing, not even dragon fire, may be enough to save them in the end. So let's start with my thoughts on the characters a little bit, and then I'll detail more of the things that I like and I didn't like about the book, and sadly there will be more things that I didn't like about the book than things that I did like. But yeah, Violet, she completes her transition into becoming a Marisu in this book. I maintain that I don't think she was one in book one. I think in book one she was pretty much just a special girl. But in this book it's just really tragic. Every secondary character, and mind you, the secondary characters were already pretty bad in book one, like they were already pretty non-characters. It's so much worse in this book. Like, I'll talk about the secondary character later in the things I didn't like, because honestly, what is there to like about them? But in this book, it just goes beyond what happened in book one. Like, they are nothing. And where in book one I felt like they were still semi-respected, in this one they're just hype girls for Violet. All of them are just there to constantly hype her up, blow smoke up her ass, and comment about how cool she is, how funny she is, and obviously a comment about the incredible sexual tension between her and Xaden that if they were not constantly commenting on it, I would have not picked up on, because it's not there. I mean, it is in the sense that every time they see each other they want to hump, but other than that I don't really feel it. Like, yes, of course she likes his abs and she thinks he's handsome, but there's no, I don't know, I don't really feel the chemistry between them, other than the fact that, yeah, she finds him hot. He probably does too. And personally, I don't call that chemistry. It's, yeah, moving on. There's just nothing between them, other than the fact that everyone just keeps commenting on the incredible chemistry. It just feels like nobody is ever able to do anything but comment on how awesome she is. And given the sheer amount of side character there are in this book, the fact that all of them are just here to hype her up, it just gets bloody ridiculous very quickly. It's like, you already have your cheerleader squad. Do you really need more characters in this book? But yeah, moving on. I need to focus on Violet. But the problem with this book as well is that there are so many things that I took issues with, and they're so all interconnected that it's really hard to just focus on one point. But I shall try for the sake of keeping this under 3 hours. So yes, basically everyone is completely obsessed with her. I cannot tell you how many times her friends were like, oh yes, Violet, she is amazing, and recap all of her achievements and laugh at her jokes for way too long. Yeah, there's this one moment where she makes a joke that I actually thought was funny, but then everyone just reacts way too hard, and I was just like, now you ruined the joke. Imogen laughs so hard she snorts as I walk back to Rihannon. Damn, just damn. Rai claps a few times. I fucking love you. Ridoc throws his arm around my shoulders. It's too much. Just say that the characters laugh, but do they have to comment on it and be like, oh, I love you, you're so funny? Like, it was a funny joke, but honestly, I'm sorry, it wasn't that funny that I would like clap my knees about it. It's just, ugh. And the problem is that it's also because everything she does is followed by everyone just constantly complimenting her and telling her how great she is. I also just found her incredibly entitled in this book. Like, there's this whole thing where she is pissed at Xaden for keeping the truth of the rebellion from her, which, you know, it's fair that she would be a bit pissy about it, but she just doesn't let go at all in this book, but I have to say she doesn't let go of much in this book. But yeah, she just starts demanding from then on that he tells her everything he knows. And that just really pissed me off, especially because it's like a whole theme throughout the whole book. Like throughout the 600 pages, she just keeps expecting him to tell her everything there is to know. Like every single thing he knows, he's supposed to tell her. And I'm sorry, I hate it. Like, I already think that people should be allowed to have their secrets because, you know, you don't want to share everything that's going on in your mind. Of course, if it's with a romantic partner, I can understand that they expect a little bit more transparency, especially when it's something to do with the relationship, with them, with yourself, with loved ones. But there she expects him to, like, basically tell her war secrets. Which I'm just like, no, that's not gonna happen. Especially because she just arrived in this rebellion. She is the daughter of one of the high-ranking leaders of their enemies. Of course she has to prove herself before they will tell her secrets, and if the leaders don't trust her, there's no reason why Xaden, who is also a leader, would tell her these secrets. Like, I'm sorry, he's not allowed to do it. And so the fact that she just keeps demanding the truth from him every time, and she's just like, I deserve the truth, I deserve better than you not telling me things. I'm like, no. I mean, you deserve him telling you things about him and about your relationship, yes. But him telling you war secret? No, you deserve none of that, I'm sorry. And in fact, there's even a moment where he tells her, like, look, I'll tell you everything about me, but that's all you get. The rest you don't get it. Which I thought was super fair. Like, yes, the other secrets are not his to tell, but she's just like, that's not good enough. Who do you think you are? Sorry, young lady, who do you think you are? You are going to tell me everything once I can properly shield, right? It's all I can do not to grab onto him and start shaking. Hard. That's what you're promised in your bedroom. He is not doing this to me. Anything you want to know and everything you don't, those were your words. Everything about me. Oh, fuck me, he is doing this to me. Again. I shake my head. That is not what you promised. Need I say more? The guy literally tells her, yes, I will tell you all of my secrets. And her answer is like, yeah, and everyone else's too. I'm sorry. The audacity, the entitlement, I can't. Honestly, I think this was one of my major sources of frustration in this book. Also, I genuinely don't know which side I'm supposed to be on in this argument, because most of the time, it feels like I'm supposed to be on Violet's side. I don't know if it's because I'm in her head, so I don't get any counter argument, but I do feel like I'm supposed to be on Violet's side. But there are a few times where other characters make a good point and tell her, look, you need to respect his boundaries. But she doesn't really seem to learn that at the end. Like, I was really waiting throughout the whole book for her to realize how entitled she was being. But there's never really a moment where I think she does realize. Like, there are a few moments where she seems close to realizing that she was being freaking entitled, but the realization never really happens. So at the end, I was kind of left feeling, so she wasn't portrayed as entitled, like, not on purpose. So yeah, I don't really know whose side I was supposed to be on in this conflict, but I was definitely Team Xaden. I was like, no, I'm sorry, just because you two are banging doesn't mean that he needs to, like, tell you everyone else's secrets, including war secrets. Just, you're not that important. You're not, like, you're a nobody in the rebellion. Like, chill. It's like if I had an internship at Coca-Cola and I had demanded to get the Coca-Cola recipe. I'm sorry, it's not gonna happen. And that's even lower stakes. No. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting really heated, but I was just getting really heated in the book every time they were having that conversation. And they were having that conversation like 1,000 times, which... Too many. But yeah, that was my feeling towards Violet in this book. She got from kind of neutral, a bit like, you know, a bit too much of a special girl in book 1, a bit inconsistent, to this very entitled Marisou that I just could not... I really started disliking her in this one. I felt really neutral towards her in book 1. In this one, I actually did start to dislike her. It's not helped by the fact also that she's like just incredibly inconsistent. Like her tendency to like spit out lore when she's stressed out comes and goes whenever we need exposition about something. That's a bit ridiculous. There were a few times where she was in mortal danger and I was like, where's my lore dump? Also, her bristly bones that break every other 2 business days. That also comes and goes. There was even a moment where she was just like punching someone and I was like, oh, and that's your knuckles gone. That's basically all your hands unusable for a few days. But no, actually, she managed to like break someone's ribs before she broke her own bones, and I was like, I'm sorry, that's not the character I've been introduced to in book 1. It was really just a stupid mechanic to have her be this underdog, or like it's only being used now when we need to feel a bit sorry for her, but when we want her to have a badass moment, that's gone. That's completely gone. There's also a task that she's supposed to perform that's very important for her graduation, where she's supposed to like jump from her dragon and like be able to like roll on the ground or something. And she spent the whole book saying like, I can't do that because I'll break all my bones. How am I gonna do this? And then at the end she does it and it was never a problem. Like she actually does the maneuver at the end to save the day or whatever. And I was like, right, and now all her bones are broken. But no, she was fine. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. So yeah, very inconsistent, very entitled, very Mary Sue, what's not to hate. And of course she still has this thing where she's constantly being told and praised for being super clever when she's not. She's like, there are so many times where she acts completely dumb. She can't put 2 and 2 together. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, you're supposed to be a clever character. Where is your intelligence in this scene? Like, why are you suddenly dumb as a brick? I shouldn't say suddenly, because it's more like she is dumb as a brick and she has these sudden surges of intelligence when the plot demands. And sometimes she just like pulls stuff out of her ass and it's just like, yeah, but it's the scenario and she just guessed it. Don't question it. And I'm just like... Anyway, I don't like feeling this way towards a character. But yeah... In this book, I just couldn't with her. She was frustrating me so much, and I think it's one of the reasons why I struggled so much with this book, because honestly, I wanted to slap her so many times. But of course, there's never really a moment where she gets taken down a peg, because even the characters who don't like her, again, very Mary Sue-ish trait, every character who doesn't like her is presented as completely unreasonable. And it's like, it basically constitutes a character redemption arc to stop hating her. Characters who don't like her are presented as these very annoying people, but the second they start liking her for no reason, instant character redemption arc, suddenly they're tolerable, likable, whatever. It's pretty bad. It is pretty bad. But anyway, moving on, I can't just keep hating on her for the whole review. There's so much more to hate on. Sorry, that was just mean and petty for no reason. Moving on, Xaden. I felt absolutely nothing towards him. Like, he has a few good lines still, but he also just got on my nerves on behalf of him becoming an absolute Mary Sue and the only character who is semi-competent other than Violet, which really annoyed me. Like, I'll talk about it a bit later when I go to Dain's section, but it's like you have so many characters who are just like incapable of doing something, and then Xaden arrives and he's like, I'll do it, and he does it effortlessly. And we're constantly being told how charismatic and a good leader he is. But the only thing he does as a leader is just like shout at people and be like, I don't give a shit what you think. Like, I'm sorry, I don't see how he's a good leader. Charisma, yeah, I guess a little bit. But I think it's, again, a case of this book just telling you things instead of showing you, because it's not really competent enough to show you. And yeah, I just got really sick and tired of the only way we have to show that Xaden is a good leader and he's very charismatic is to show how uncharismatic Dain is in comparison. That got sold so fast. I every time I was just thinking, if the only thing you can use to show me that Xaden is a good leader is show me that in comparison Dain is not as good, I'm sorry, that means nothing. Especially because Dain spends the whole book being walked all over. So it's basically the same thing as saying like, oh yeah, I'm not as good as flying as this ostrich over there. You know, I can't fly to save my life. This ostrich can maybe like lift itself 30 centimeters off the ground, which is more than I can say for myself, but that doesn't mean this ostrich can fly. You know what I'm saying? Is that a good comparison? I don't really know, but I'm gonna run with this one. It's like, no, I'm sorry, just because he is a better leader than Dain doesn't mean that he's a good leader, doesn't mean that he's charismatic, but it's the only way we have, other than Rihannon and Violet expressing every once in a while, Xaden is such a good leader compared to Dain. And it's like, yeah, thanks. You keep walking all over Dain, like you showed him no respect. Even though he is your superior, you just keep walking all over him. So Xaden being better than him doesn't mean anything. But yeah, other than that, I just felt like Xaden was really, I'm sorry, uninteresting in this book. Because all he was doing was arguing with Violet about him not wanting to tell her secrets that aren't his to tell. I don't know what else to say about him. He is becoming a bit more insufferably protective of her in this book, which was one of the things in book one that we were saying was what was making him better than Dain, was that he was treating her more like an adult and like trusting her to get shit done. And in this book, he feels like that's kinda gone. And I know that the only thing that I'm doing right now to like explain my thoughts on Xaden is compare him to Dain, but I also feel like this is what the book is doing. So I'm gonna do the same, basically. It's like, why are Xaden and Violet together? Because he's hot and he's better than Dain, is what I got from the book. Because that's what we're doing at the end of the day. We're just using Dain as this comparison for Xaden, and that's his whole purpose in the book, which I find very sad. But yeah, that's it about Xaden. I don't think there's that much to say about him, to be honest. So let's move on to his rival, Dain, whom I feel I already talked about quite a bit. I don't know, I probably sound like I like him. I don't particularly like him. I don't really care about Dain. I just really dislike his role in the story, and a lot of time I felt sorry for him because he really became just a punching bag in this book. He's just spending his whole time being walked all over, even though he's like a wing leader, so which is the position that Xaden used to have before he graduated, and it is the highest position that you can have as a student. Like, he's basically top of the school as a student, and yet you have characters like Rihannon and Violet constantly walking all over him, even though he outranks them massively, which just completely shatters any illusion that hierarchy has any importance in this book. Because sometimes they do it in front of other people, and they criticize him in front of cadets, and they like walk all over him, and he's just like, Also, yeah, everyone just hates him because he betrayed Violet at the end of book one. I was just so annoyed by this because, yes, what he did was a bit messed up, but I really felt like Violet's anger towards him was just completely blown out of proportion. I lock my shields in place just like Xaden taught me, and fantasize about shoving Dain off a tower. You know, bit extreme. And she just kind of considers him responsible for the death of Liam, which in this case I understand why she's very bitter about it. But I don't understand why she holds him responsible so much and not the higher-ups. Because it's not like he controls Venins, who are the ones who killed Liam at the end of book one. He clearly doesn't even know that Venins are a thing. So I don't understand why she holds him responsible so much for what happened to Liam. And it just, again, makes her feel so unreasonable. And again, I'm saying that I do not care about Dain. I just ended up feeling so sorry for him and for all the bashing that he receives, especially because once again it's so clear that he doesn't understand what is going on. Like, she comes back from her mission and she just hates him and tell him to his face like, oh, I hate you, and he's just like, why, what the fuck? did I do? So it's obvious that he doesn't know what happened, and she just never questions it, and she just like, I want to throw him off a tower. And between that and the fact that she and Rihannon just spend their time walking all over him in front of other people, at some point I'm just like, okay, I don't particularly like the guy, but it's hard not to feel sorry for him. Especially because he is used as like the comparison for the worst thing alive. Like at some point Xaden is getting a bit too protective of Violet, and she just goes like, you know who you sound like? Dain. Like he's legit used as the comparison for being the worst thing one person could possibly be. You're just like, poor guy. Poor guy is all I will say. I don't particularly like him. I really don't think he deserves half of the hate he gets in this book from other characters. And also I will say that the fact that he stole her memories in book 1, yes, messed up, didn't like that, but the fact that she just like holds on to that so much from someone who is that fucking annoyed at her boyfriend for keeping secrets from her, you know, I don't know. Not saying she would steal his memories if she could, but you don't have a lot of respect for privacy either, Violet, so you know, just putting it out there. And yeah, this is basically one of the many moments where Rihannon just completely has no respect for the guy. Don't even get me started this morning, Atos. She looks up from her perfectly numbered scroll and raises a finger. And if you even think about telling me to call you wing leader, I'll remind you that Ryerson did a hell of a job without needing everyone to supplicate themselves to him. So yes, again, a proof that Xaden is the superior love interest by comparison. And Rihannon walking all over Dain is just like his only purpose in this book. And yeah, that's it. Leadership in this book means nothing at all. Anyway, speaking of Rihannon, I still consider her pretty much a non-character, even though this book does try to do a little bit more with her by having her be like a squad leader and pretending she has any leadership talent. It's like she just disrespects her own leadership to show how badass she is, I suppose. And she just like, there are a few times where she just barks at people and they fall back in order immediately. And I kind of want to find it cool, but it's really difficult when she has zero personality. It's like we're pretending that we're doing something with her, but at the end of the day, she's just part of the Violet cheerleading squad. That's it. She's got nothing going on for her. She's just like there for Violet. She's like infinitely patient for Violet, forgives everything she does instantly, hype her up like there's no tomorrow. And we just made her squad leader because we can't have Violet have everything, even though Violet has everything other than that. And we pretend that she's like this natural born leader. I don't see it. For me, she's just a cardboard character. Then we have Ridoc, who is another part of the Violet cheerleading squad. He's basically the comic relief, and I don't care about him. I really don't. Like, he's really just that, the comic relief. And I say that as someone who usually likes comic reliefs. They do have a tendency to very easily be my favorite characters. And I find it sad that a lot of stories just kind of underutilizes them, because I feel like they have a lot of potential. Like, a character arc that I always really like for a comic relief is like just kind of, you know, demanding a bit more respect from their peers because they do have a tendency to be disrespected, and I just like that character arc. I just find that it's always very interesting when done well. But with him, it's never gonna happen because he's just a non-character. He's just there to crack a few jokes. They're rarely funny, by the way. And yeah, he's just a textbook comic relief with no thought put into him whatsoever. He's just gonna crack stupid jokes every now and then and call it a day, and that's it. And I find it a shame because, again, like I said, I generally like comic reliefs, but this guy, there's nothing to him. Next character of the Violet cheerleading squad is a Sawyer, who is a character from book 1 as well. When I say Ridoc is a flat cardboard character, at least I can name the archetype that he belongs to. Sawyer, I don't think there's anything that I can tell you about him other than the fact that he has the hots for a girl at some point. And I didn't care because neither of them are characters as far as I'm concerned. They're non-characters. So yeah, no, at least Ridoc, I can tell you something about him. Sawyer, he's not a comic relief. That's all I can say. To the point that in my notes for this review, I have Ridoc, comic relief, Sawyer. No notes, nothing. I had nothing to say about him. So I guess moving on. Next we have Sloane, who is Liam's little sister. She's a waste of space. I cannot understand what she's doing in this book. Actually, no, I know what she's doing in this book. She's just like fueling Violet's martyr complex. Because yeah, this book, even more so than book one, which I already felt a little bit in book one, but in this book it's completely out there. This book is obsessed with making Violet a freaking martyr, and I think Sloane is literally just there to amplify that, because basically she is Liam's little sister, Liam, who was the only good character in book one and died at the end of book one, and Sloane has decided that it was Violet's fault that he died because he had to protect her. Nobody ever bothers correcting her and saying no, Violet was not the reason that he died at all. Nobody corrects her. No, everybody lets her think her own things. Okay, and so basically it's just like kind of tormenting Violet because she's just like, oh my god, she hates me, she thinks that her brother died because of me, blah blah blah, but I promised her brother that I would defend her and blah blah blah, and honestly it was so annoying, so forced, and it made me think that this book has a martyr kink or something, because it was just used so Violet could be like, I don't care that she hates me, I just want her to be safe. And yeah, it just made me think that this book has a martyr kink, because all the amount of time that Violet was made to suffer for the sake of others was just completely wild, and Sloane was literally created to be just that. It's hard not to loathe her for hating you, Rihannon sighs, but I'm glad she survived. I don't need her to like me, I shrug. I just need her to live. And yeah, so I didn't particularly care for the scenes with Sloane, but I was kind of hoping it would go somewhere. I don't think it does, personally, but I'll talk about it more in the spoiler section. For me, it was just like a complete waste of space, waste of time, waste of potential, because we could have done something interesting with it, but we chose not to. Next part of the ever-growing, never-ending Violet cheerleading squad is Imogen, who is becoming one of the other characters I can tolerate in this book, because she is a bit harsh, she is a little bit of like, at least how I imagine her, she is a bit of a like a muscle girl, which, you know, she's a bit of a tough chick, which I like, and she is only one of the few characters who does give a little bit of harsh truth to Violet every once in a while, which is greatly appreciated. You're not going to ask about the book I shouldn't have? No, unlike some people, I don't feel the need to know everything someone else deems private. Yes, thanks, Imogen. That line actually did make me happy. But yeah, like, for all I loved that line, it did make me wonder, because there's a moment where Xaden also tells her, like, hey, you're not the only one who gets to have boundaries in this relationship. So these kind of lines, where I always thought were well played, I just ended up thinking, but so we know that Violet is being unreasonable, right? Is she going to have a character arc about that? Well, she'll have to realize that she cannot demand that he tells her other people's secrets. I don't know if that's something that's going to happen in Onyx Storm, but honestly, I didn't feel like she learned anything in this book, which is one of the reasons that I'm not clear who I'm supposed to side with in this conflict, because lines like these make me think, no, I am actually indeed supposed to side with Xaden, but there's never any moment where I feel like Violet has that realization that she's demanding too much of him. Yeah, and then as for secondary characters, honestly, I feel like I'm already doing them quite the service by even just mentioning them. They're that unimportant. But let's finish with another one who I felt like was just even remotely meaningful, was like this prince guy who's named Aaric, I think. And he's basically a cadet who arrives at Basquiat War College to become a rider. And he's like there incognito, nobody knows he is the prince except for Violet because she knows him from the past for some reason. And so yeah, even the king doesn't know that he's coming to be a rider or something. He was okay. I didn't mind him. Didn't particularly like him either. I'm just mentioning him because he's kind of plot relevant at some point, but and that's going to be it for the characters, because honestly, they are the only ones I can legit think about. Oh no, I guess there's Kat as well, who is Xaden's ex. There's nothing to say about her. Like, nobody likes her because she doesn't like Violet, so obviously nobody likes her because any character who doesn't like Violet is portrayed as being the most unreasonable creature on earth, which is ridiculous. But yeah, Kat, she exists because this book needed more trope, so Kat exists, and I have nothing to say about her. And I think those are the only secondary characters whose name I can remember, but there are a lot more of secondary characters in this book, too many to count. Anyway, there's nobody else off the top of my head that I could say is, I mean, none of them are relevant, but that are important enough that I remember them, or that I feel like mentioning them. Anyway, that's it for the characters, so now I'm just gonna briefly talk about the positives of the book, which honestly I don't think there are many. In book one, I would have said that it was at least a bit entertaining, but I wasn't entertained by this book. The only thing that I can say was still nice were the dragons. I have nothing bad to say about the dragons. I still think that their personalities are okay. I really like Dain. I like him. I think he's probably the highlight of the book for me, the only character that I genuinely liked. Like, there's Imogen as well that I was kind of okay with, even though she also annoyed me at some point. And Darna, I guess she had a few good lines. She made me laugh a few times. So yeah, the dragons were still okay. As far as the negatives, buckle up. Let's start with the writing and the style. It's still beyond cringe, let's be honest. You have this overuse of like these sentences that are interrupted with like periods. Too many sentences interrupted like this. Which, you know, can be nice once in a while for emphasis and effect, but it's just so overused in this book that at some point I was just rolling my eyes. And just in general, like, I just felt like the writing was very cringe. Like a moth to a damned flame, the lament slips from my mind into our mental pathway, his gravity pulling me back to him by the force of his existence. Listen, if you find this pretty good, for me I just find it a bit like especially because I really felt like every time Violet or Xaden were professing their love for each other, it was always with these like long ass monologues and like grandiose declaration of love. You can get away with one at key moments, I guess, but when the characters are just constantly professing their love like this, I just really feel like it cheapens the moment and the declaration, because when their only way of saying I love you is to just be like, I love you like the stars loves the moon, and you're as important to me as the air I'm breathing, and la la la, and when it's always like that, it just ends up feeling a bit cheap and empty. Like, yeah, you can have like those grandiose moments every now and then, but no, I really feel, to me at least, like these moments have to be kind of rare to be valuable, because otherwise it just ends up sounding like empty words. And honestly, I also don't think the style is good enough in this book to really pull it off without sounding a bit like There were also so many times where the narration just completely lost me. And you know, you can say that I'm the idiot for not being able to follow this book, maybe. I'm not gonna argue, you may be right. But I really felt like some characters were just popping out of nowhere in the middle of conversations, and to me it ended up making it very jarring to read. You'd be surprised, I mutter, exhaustion getting the better of my tongue. What? Rai questions. I mean, we really don't know what's out there, do we? Hopefully not fire-breathing griffins, Ridoc said. Right. Rihannon tilts her head, studying my face, and I quickly shrug. Hi, Dyer! I muster a smile. I brought you dinner. He looks at me with a reverence I don't deserve. Who's Dyer, and when did he arrive in this scene? Like, no kidding, I don't think there's any mention of him in this specific scene before. He's probably mentioned before, like, as an existing character, and I forgot about him, because that is a recurrent problem that I had with this book, where I just kept forgetting about characters. Because again, too many not relevant and absolutely cardboard characters. But yeah, there's just this character who was not there in the scene, is not described as arriving at any moment, and is just in the middle of the conversation. Violet is just like, hi Daya, and I'm just like, sorry, who? Who? And why are you saying hi to a random character who has not been described as arriving? And that happens so many times, where there are just characters who were not there before, or maybe they were there and they were just not mentioned for so long that I forgot they were there. But there were so many times where I was just confused, and I have so many notes on my Kindle being like, where was this character in this scene, and where is he coming from, and also who is he? So yeah, I was just confusion throughout this whole book, which is also why maybe I can accept if someone tells me, oh no, actually this was explained and you just missed it. Yeah, because I spent the whole book being confused, and I don't think this is the kind of book that should confuse me. It should be very straightforward. Like, it's not particularly deep or intellectual. Why am I this confused? Because, you know, there are times in the book where things just get a bit complicated, and I can be like, okay, no, this is too deep for me, I'm not getting it. This is not a book like this. This is just a confusing book. Oh, also, just this line. When nothing else matters but the feel of his lips, the flick of his tongue behind my teeth. Is Xaden a toothbrush? I'm not gonna read bits from the sex scene, but I find them a bit cringe as well, and impressive. Feel free to read them if you're interested, but they're just kind of on par with the rest of the book, which is like not very interestingly written. I don't really have any highlights from them, because honestly I was just kind of not skipping through them, but just not paying any attention to them, because I just don't like these two together. They're just so uninteresting. And if it's just to read another variation of like, oh, the air is electric between us, like, no thanks. Last line I want to read out loud to convince you that this book has terrible writing. The sky is grey and falling rapidly towards us. It's not sky, it's a boulder. I have nothing to say. It's not sky, it's a boulder. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. There's also just one moment at some point where someone attacks her or something, and she says, I have no time to do anything but react. And I'm just, what else were you trying to do but react when someone attacks you? I don't understand. I don't understand. Yeah, there's a lot of time where the writing was just like, not for me. Anyway, next issue that I had with the book is, I think I've already touched on this a bit, it's like, it just really reads as filler. It's just very boring. Xaden and Violet having the same conversation, like I think 7 or 8 times with no progress in the resolution, was just so frustrating for me. I do not understand why we had to waste so much time on this. This book is 600 pages of nothing. If you want to drag the plot across 5 books, okay, but then make the book shorter, because 600 pages of nothing is a lot, and you can really feel it in this book, with all of the conversation repeating, and just it felt like nothing was important. You have like some of the college exams and tasks again, like you have in book 1, and in book 1 I felt like they were already feeling pointless, but in this book it just felt so much worse. They introduced new characters that only appeared in these scenes, and like I said, this book is already swollen with side characters that I do not remember, have no personality. It's just too much, and it just like overloads your brain with superfluous information, and it never feels important. So why would I bother remembering these characters when I don't know if they're gonna come back? And you don't give me anything of substance to remember them because they're so flat. And even like there's something that happens, I think it's towards the middle of the book, where I was getting a little bit excited, where I was like, oh god, it feels like something is finally going to change now, so maybe we're finally getting a development. But no, it doesn't change anything. It's just the same thing happens in a different place. It just feels like nothing happens. It really did. Even though I guess there were something happenings, like there were some characters dying, but they were not relevant at all. So even that, characters dying, felt like nothing happening. Mad. Completely mad. This whole book just felt like wasting time until something happens. Another thing that I didn't like, and I already touched upon, were the secondary characters. Like I said, absolutely pointless. Too many of them with nothing to do. Like, they were given names, but the only thing that I could remember them by was kind of their position in the story. And even then, I wasn't really, because the characters will say a name like Marin. And I was just like, who is Marin? Who is this guy? Wait, like, is he like a infantry guy, or is he like a griffin guy, or is he like a cadet from like the riders? I could not remember them even by their function in their story, and sometimes I would replace them and be like, oh, using context clue, I think it's griffin guy. Maybe. And it's just by using the context clue that he's appearing in the specific scene, so it would make sense that he is this type of guy. And I kid you not, there were some situations where by using context clue I was able to piece together who a person was, and then this person died, and I was like, I literally just understood who this person was, and now you're killing them. Like, and that's also another reason why I spent so much time in this book confused, because I could not remember the characters because they're so insignificant and so cardboard, and they have nothing memorable about them. And there are so many of them, and they have nothing to contribute to the plot. Because heaven forbids we have another character outside of Violet or Xaden contributing in any significant way. But then if these characters mean nothing, just don't have them. Have less of them. It's fine. But the problem with this book is that every time you introduce a new group of people, you introduce like 3 or 4 new characters. Just name one and have them be the like representation for this group, because you just have too many. I cannot tell you the amount of notes I took of my Kindle, the amount of highlights being just like, who is this character? Am I supposed to know them, or are they new characters? And every time a new batch of characters was introduced, I was just like, I already don't remember the last batch of characters you introduced. Stop! No more! But yeah, anyway, I think I've done everything I could regarding the non-spoiler zone, so let's just start with the spoiler zone. You're now entering the spoiler zone, so if you want to be preserved from any spoiler, you're interested in reading the book for some reason and you don't want to be spoiled, now's your chance to leave. But please, if you've enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe if you want to see more of my face. Okay, and now with that, I consider all the non-spoiler people gone, so let's spoil. So in book 1, we meet Violet Sorrengail, our main character, who is the daughter of a famous war general, and her family has a history of becoming dragon riders, but she wanted to be a scribe because she is a weak little thing with bristly bones that break easily, but that's only just on every Sunday of the month apparently, because that doesn't happen at all or barely happens in book 2. She thinks her brother Brennan died at war, and we started the book by her explaining that she was training all of her life to become a scribe, but her mother suddenly changed her mind and decided that no, she's actually going to become a dragon rider like the rest of the family, because that's what we do. And so she has to go to Basquiat War College dragon rider section instead of scribe section, without half of the training that other people had, because let's not forget, dragon riders train basically all their lives to be able to make it to the riders quadrant, because becoming a dragon rider is basically this very cutthroat curriculum where you can die at any seconds for a reason, because this army just likes disposing of their own resources for funsies. So yeah, Violet is forced from the scribes quadrant into the riders quadrants. But don't worry, she doesn't really mind. Like, her being a scribe at the beginning is only used as an excuse for her being super intelligent. And she just never really misses being a scribe, basically. She's just like, no, I'm a writer now. I was born to be a writer. That's fine. They're cooler anyway. There she makes some friends, and she meets her childhood friend Dain, who is not cool at all, and we hate him for some reason, because he is overprotective of his friend who is entering a cutthroat tournament death thing with bones that break easily. So, what an asshole for worrying about her. Am I right? And she also meets Xaden, her proper love interest, because we gotta do the love triangle thing. And he's the son of this guy who used to be a traitor, and her mother killed him. So everyone assumes that he Xaden is going to hate Violet and want to kill her to avenge his father, but no, he doesn't do that. Instead, he falls in love with her because he is her real love interest, her superior love interest, because he, unlike Dain, treats her like a strong, independent woman, even though her bones are described to break every 2 business days. Because she is weak, but we're pretending she's not. Like I said, riders in training are meant to go through a lot of really cutthroat trials, because let's not forget, this country really likes to dispose of highly motivated, highly trained warriors for no reason at all. Violet at some point in books 2 likes to pretend that it's because it makes the survivors tougher for having witnessing so much death. I will argue that war will do that to you as well. You don't need to waste valuable resources for that. But who am I to judge? Anyway, at threshing, which is the ceremony trial where dragons choose the riders, Violet, who is a special girl, gets chosen not by 1, but by 2 dragons, one of them being a very rare, very super strong, the strongest there ever was, black dragon, and a cute little baby dragon who will no doubt become a super powerful dragon, super rare dragon at some point as well. Thanks to her link with her dragon, she unlocks the power of lightning, which is of course a super rare, super powerful power, which makes her very precious to the leadership and the army. And one of her dragons, Tern, is the mate of Xaden's dragon, which makes them connected, because if a dragon dies, the rider dies. And if a rider dies, a dragon becomes very sad and depressed. And if they're sad and depressed enough, they can die from it. And because Tern gets really attached to his rider, if Violet dies, chances are really high that he would die. And if Tern dies, his mate dies. And if his mate dies, her rider dies as well, which is Xaden. So basically, if anyone dies in this, between these 4 characters, the rest probably will die as well. At some point towards the end of book 1, Violet discovers that Xaden is actually a traitor because he's delivering weapons to the opposite side of the conflict. But it's actually a good thing that he's doing, because what she learns as well is that there are these things, mystical creatures that she thought were a legend, that are called venins that exist. And the war between the country of Navarre and the other country is actually around like getting resources to defeat the venins, because Navarre has like these walls that protect their country from the venins coming in, and they do not want to share those resources. And so what Xaden is doing is delivering weapons so the other country can defend themselves against the venins. So basically the country of Navarre is just like happy to let its neighbors die, and Xaden is just like, no, I'm gonna help them, which, you know, is a good thing. But he is still a traitor. So Violet is a little bit shook, not only of that, but knowing that these mystical creatures actually exist. But Dain, who has the power of stealing people's memories, at some point, before Violet discovers all that, he steals her memory, and so don't ask me why, but he deduced that Xaden was a traitor somehow, and he warns his father, who kind of then tricked Violet and Xaden and a whole squad of people into just having to fight against venins who were there, and that resulted in Violet being mortally wounded and one of her friends, Liam, dying. And so because she is mortally wounded, Xaden had to take her to the closest mender / healer that he could think of, which just so happens to be Violet's not actually dead brother, Brennan. All good? Nice. Then let's get on with book 2. So we start book 2 basically where we left Violet at the end of book 1. She's still being taken care of by her brother Brennan, and she's still with the traitor people. And of course she is still pissed at Xaden for keeping secrets from her, which is basically the whole plot of this book, and there's no other plot but her being pissed at Xaden. Anyway, we quickly leave this place to go back to Basquiat College, where we are of course greeted with amazing dialogue, where Dain and Xaden have another one of their pissing contests, and Violet's friends comment on how hot that was. That was hot, Nadine comments from in front of us, standing beside Sawyer. Love triangles can get so awkward, don't you think? Imogen says. Okay, thanks for calling out the tropes out loud. That was not forced at all. Thanks. I wasn't sure what this was supposed to be, so thanks for confirming it was a love triangle and reading the tropes aloud. Can you guys read this one next? By the way, who's Nadine? Yeah, because I completely forgot about her. I do think she appears in book 1, but let's not worry about her. She dies soon anyway. Starting a long tradition of characters I don't remember dying. So this year Xaden graduates, so he will no longer be the wing leader and he will no longer be in Basquiat College. He will just join the army, period. And so because their dragons are mated, him and Violet need to make sure that the dragons can see each other regularly, because if the dragons are not with their mates for too long, they will die. So Violet and Xaden needs to visit each other regularly, and so every time they see each other, they end up having an argument. Yay! About the same freaking situation they always have. Oh, joy. Which is just every time the same. You can just boil it down to, I want to know the truth. I can't tell you the truth, but I deserve to know the truth. And this is also roughly the moment in the book where we get introduced to the character of Sloane, so Liam's little sister, who is convinced that Violet is the reason why her older brother died in the end of book 1. And so she hates Violet with a passion that is just very annoying, and nobody really takes her seriously. And like I said earlier, is really just a reason for Violet to be like, I don't care if you hate me as long as you live, oh my god, I'm so cool. And just again, like, exacerbate Violet's martyr complex, etc, etc, etc. And we also get introduced to Varish, who is like this commandant who is going to be our antagonist for this book. He's very lame and he super doesn't like Violet because she knows about the Venons, and so he's kind of wary of her and Xaden, and he doesn't want them to be together, and he tries to keep them apart as much as possible just because he's a petty diva, I guess. And I don't know, I couldn't find a way to take him seriously because he's just like this petty bully diva character who decides that he's going to bully Violet because he doesn't like that she knows about Venons, and he's just really trying to get the truth out of her. And I don't know, he just decides that he's going to prevent her from seeing Xaden, and there's also this one moment where he punishes her so hard that she nearly dies, and I don't understand how he's able to bully her to this extent, even though she is like always highlighted as being this precious resources because of her incredible powers and her bond with one of the strongest dragon. Like, she is presented as an asset to the army. Why is he allowed to bully her to this extent and nobody says anything? It's beyond me. At some point, amazing character whom I forgot existed, Nadine, dies because she's like kind of joking and pretending to be Violet, and an assassin who was supposed to kill Violet kills her instead. And honestly, I found that it was such a stupid moment because I didn't really remember Nadine in the first place, and just because the moment just felt so dumb. Popular today, aren't you? Nadine whispers with a smile, pivoting playfully towards the first year. Hi, I'm Violet Sorrengill. She points to her purple hair. See? Like my hair. Do you have a message for? He grabs hold of her head and twists, snapping her neck. Yeah, and that's it. That's the whole reason this character was brought back from the depth of book 1, was to just die in this instant. I don't understand. I guess it's just for the shock value of killing one of Violet's friends. But again, I don't know what her place was in book 1, but from book 1 I remembered Rihannon, I remembered Ridoc, and I remembered Sawyer, who are her actual friends. And Nadine just felt like she popped out of nowhere. She was probably mentioned, but she was never one of her core friends, at least I don't think. So it just feels cheap to bring this character, who was irrelevant in book 1, pretend she was their friend at the same level as Rihannon, Ridoc, and Sawyer, and just kill her for shock value. And in such a stupid way as well. Like, I was reading and I was like, okay, Nadine's dead, I guess. Moving on. And after that, I think we arrive at the moment in the book where the least things ever happen. It's just basically Xaden and Violet having these back and forth, arguing about tell me all the secrets that you're aware of. Him saying no, her saying, but I deserve to know. Varish trying to prevent them from actually seeing each other. Some stupid war college tasks and exams and preparations that are just pure filler. Introducing new characters that are absolutely pointless, and I don't even know if we'll ever see them again. We also start getting characters dying, and I genuinely can't remember who they were. You'll hear about it in Battle Brief tomorrow, but so far there's only one death. Her throat works before she looks up from the book. Mason Sanborn. Some of you may have known him since he's a recent graduate. Mason. Oh my god, no. His face flashes through my mind, smiling as he pushes his glasses up his nose. Who's Mason? And yeah, no kidding, that was my reaction to half of the characters in this book. Probably more than half of the characters in this book. I was just like, oh no, I'm supposed to know this character? I really don't. And there's another character like this at some point in the book who we see die, and Violet talks to her like she knows her. Like, she has a conversation with this character, and I was just like, I'm sorry, who is this? And I think her name was Aya. But when I saw her appearing in book 2, I was just like, who the hell is this character? And then at some point from like the conversation, I'm like, oh, she's one of the characters who were with Violet at the end of book 1 when Liam dies. But I only got that from the conversation, but I still cannot remember this character being there at the end of book 1. I think she was just a list of name along with this Mason guy. And then they get attacked and Aya dies. And I was just like... So we're just killing these non-characters now like it's an important thing. And I guess it is plot relevant because it indicates between that and the scene where Nadine dies when she pretended to be Violet, is just like, yeah, these characters who were at the scene of the Venin attack are being targeted. But I'm sorry, it just feels so cheap when you kill these characters who were just like a list of names. And it's something that this book does so much, like it just kills irrelevant characters, like it's upping stakes, and I'm just like, no, killing cardboard characters who I could not even remember because they were just part of a list of names does not up the stakes. That can work once or twice in the book. In fact, I remembered in book 1 there was a character whom I didn't know, and somehow I still remember her death because Violet made it a big deal, and it was not that drawn out, but this book does it all the time where it just keeps killing characters whom I don't know, like it's a meaningful thing, and I'm just like, it can be once or maybe twice, but when you constantly do that, at some point I just do not care. And you know, maybe I would actually still care if I wasn't just so confused as to who these characters are supposed to be, like you're actually treating them like I'm supposed to know them and I don't, and I'm just so confused that by the time I actually understand who they are supposed to be, not because I remember them, but just because I remember the context around them, you kill them. So I'm just confused. Anyway, moving on, let's go back to the plot. At some point Violet gets tortured by Varish because it's part of a class for these guys to learn to endure torture, but Varish uses it as an excuse to try and see how much Violet knows about the whole Venin situation. And so he tortures her and tortures her friend, because obviously Violet doesn't mind being tortured because like she's so used to having her bone broken that pain is nothing to her. But as soon as you start touching her friends, like this is where she struggles because she's such a martyr. But then at some point Varish calls to Dain and tries to persuade him to steal information from Violet. You could learn what it is she sees in him, Varish whispers, getting closer to Dain. Why she chose him over you. Don't you want to know? All the answers are right there. You just have to know where to reach. Have to give it to him. He's convincing as fuck. Am I the only one who thinks this reader's very self-absorbed? She really thinks like it's the most convincing argument ever to try and understand why she didn't pick Dain. Like, how could Dain not want to know why she didn't pick him? Yeah, no, I'm sorry, this reads super self-centered to me. What could I even say? Thank you for doing the only decent thing and not violating my privacy. And this is again like showing one of those moments where I was just like, okay, just like, you know, Dain just cannot win. Like, even when he does literally nothing wrong, she still finds a way to be bitchy about it. Like in this scene at the end, even though Varish tries to tempt him with the most compelling argument ever, like, you could understand why she didn't pick you, which obviously so compelling. And Dain just goes like, no, I'm not doing this, and he leaves. And like, he's not trying to prove any point, he's just trying to do what he thinks is right. And even then he can't win. Even then, like, he wasn't asking for her to like recognize it, he was just doing it because that's what he felt was right. And even then he can't win, and she's just gonna be bitchy about it. And it's just like, I don't particularly like him, but at some point it's just like, poor guy has just everyone piling on him just because he did one thing that, yes, again, was a bit messed up, but I really do think that the sentence just completely outweighed the crime. Anyway, oh god, next scene. Jack Barlow is brought back to life. Like, he's just introduced in the class and they're just like, oh, look who we managed to mend! This character who nobody gave a shit about, and any character who remembers them hated his face, we brought him back from the dead! Yeah, that was, you know, one of the antagonists of book one. Like, he was just like this non-character who was just basically there to be a bully to Violet. Like a black hole of coolness and charisma. Like, he had nothing going on for him, and we decided to bring him back. Amazing. Thank you. We could have brought back Liam, but we decided to go for Jack Barlow of all characters. Like he was ever a good villain. I don't know. Yeah, I legit thought around book one when he dies that where I was just like, oh, okay, so he was not meant to be like a credible antagonist. That's good, because I always thought he was kind of lame, but now we're bringing him back. And also, I don't understand, because like one of their best healers, menders, like spent, I think, a whole semester trying to bring him back to life. Like, this school took valuable time from their best mender, or one of their best mender, to bring back this character, when it's a school that's just established to be very happy to just let cadets die if they're like a weakling, and this guy was obviously a weakling, and yet for some reason they just like spend so much time and energy from one of their best mender to bring him back, even though it's established that they're happy to let all of their cadets die if that's what it takes. I'm sorry, what? And you know, I think there might be a reason that I will talk about a bit later in the book why they brought him back, but it also makes no sense. And to me, it's just a case of doing this for the reader. We're not making this happen because it makes sense plot-wise, or there's like a reason for the school to want Jack Barlow to be brought back and why they would waste so much time and resource to bring him back. We're doing this for the reader because it's a plot twist for the reader to be like, oh my god, Jack Barlow is back. I hate this. Like, I'm sorry, if it doesn't make sense plot-wise, find a reason to make it happen, because even if I try to find a reason later on in the plot, I still don't think it makes sense for it to happen. I don't know, maybe I missed something. I don't want to like discard the possibility that I missed something. If that's the case, please drop a message in the comments and let me know. Once you've reached the end of the video and I explain why I think the reason may be that they decided to bring him back. Once we get there, if you think I didn't get it, please let me know. I'm really curious. Anyway, after that we get a scene of Violet finally caving in and revealing to her friends the truth about the Venins and what happened at the end of book one. And not to be petty, but by doing that, proving that Xaden was right all along to not give her any more war secrets. You did what he said he wanted to avoid, so I'm sorry, he was right all along. Just saying. And of course they're not angry at her for keeping the secret, because only Violet is ever allowed to be angry, and when Violet does something everyone is immediately understanding, because how could they ever hold a grudge against a character so perfect? And the only characters who are allowed to grow a grudge against Violet are unreasonable characters whom we hate. And because we're not supposed to hate her friends, of course they forgive her instantly. And their only reaction is basically just like, oh my god, it must have been so hard for you to keep such a secret all along, poor little Violet. Which is not a grace that we extend to any other characters, but moving on. Throughout the book you also have Violet doing her own research by asking an archivist friend of hers to smuggle illegal books out of the archives for her. And so she learns some things about the wards and how to recreate them, because she wants to be able to create wards outside of Navarre to protect other kingdoms from the Venins, which, you know, fair. And they learn that there's like this journal or this artifact, I can't remember, that has more information that's like being kept in the school, but to access it you need someone who is from the bloodline of the current king, which, oh, would you look at that, they just happen to have a prince amongst the cadets. So Aaric is his name, and he just so happens to hate Xaden because Xaden kills his brother. But Aaric ends up helping them anyway for reasons that are explained. But I was also super pissed because the whole conversation where they try to convince him to help them, even though Xaden killed his brother, is skipped. It's just basically like they start trying to convince him, and then you're just like, we managed to convince him. And I'm just like, you skipped the conversation of how you were able to convince the guy to help the team of the man who killed his brother, but you didn't skip any of the 8 conversations between Violet and Xaden arguing about his secrets. The priorities of what we see in this book blows my mind. But after that, they're caught for snooping, and so they have to leave Basquiat College, and so they decide to reveal the truth of what is going on to the other riders so they can make a decision if they want to flee with them. And so you have like, I don't know, like half of the riders who flee with them, and so they go to where the rebellion is happening, which also is Xaden's old house. Oh, but before they leave, there is actually a scene where Violet gets again tortured by Varish, because we can never get enough scenes of Violet being tortured. But Dain actually arrives and saves the day. But, you know, because he's Dain and he is not allowed to be competent, and also because nobody is allowed to do anything remotely helpful other than Xaden and Violet, Xaden arrives and extra saves the day. And it's just what I said, that basically no secondary character is ever allowed to have a cool moment that has any meaning in the plot other than Violet and Xaden, which just is so frustrating to me. They have these marginal cool little moments that end up feeling like my baby's first cool moment, and they just get nothing else. It's exhausting. But yeah, after that is the moment where they actually escape with the other riders to Xaden's old house where the rebellion is taking place. And where we meet a whole new batch of characters who are like the Griffin Flyers. And I don't remember any of them. I do remember Kat because she is Xaden's ex, and so obviously she starts having this stupid catty rivalry with Violet because we do have to do all of the tropes. But yeah, other than that, I was actually pretty hyped because I was like, oh wow, they're like forced to flee the school, so now we have a whole new setting. We cannot be in Basquiat College anymore, so all of the classes and the trials are gone, and now we have to focus on this rebellion thing. So I was actually hyped. I was like, oh wow, this book is finally changing. Like, we finally get something new. Maybe it's going to start becoming more interesting now. But no, they just take class over there instead of at Basquiat College. They just start remaking the same system, just somewhere else. It serves me right for being hyped about anything in this book, I guess. And that's what I mean when I say that nothing happens in this book. Even when it feels like something is finally happening, it's just the same thing somewhere else. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Why are we pretending something is happening when nothing is happening? It just irritates me. It's just like being at Basquiat, Ridoc says with a smile. But, you know, not. Yes, exactly. It was almost exciting. And yeah, they start taking classes with those Griffin riders, which, yay, more side characters. Oh yeah, and that's also the part of the book where Sloane decides to stop hating Violet for no reason. And when I say no reason, there is a reason. You want to know the reason? She started reading Liam's journal, and in Liam's journal, he makes it clear that he really liked Violet as a friend and that she was not responsible for his death. So Sloane doesn't hate Violet anymore, and suddenly she just joins the Violet's cheerleading squad. Talk about a non-conflict. Honestly, what would happen if we took Sloane out of the book? nothing would change is the answer. She is a meaningless character. She was just there for like 5 minutes to hype and heighten Violet's martyr complex, and then she just joins the Violet cheerleading squad. Absolute waste of time, this character, waste of potential. It could have been interesting, a conflict to have and find an interesting way of solving it. Instead, we're just having like, oh, actually, I read in my brother's journal that he didn't hate you, so now I'm cool with you as well. Like, no conversations were had. There was no moment where they have to bond, and like no conflict from Sloane's side. She's just a waste of time. Like, you would lose nothing dropping her as a character from this book. It is mad. It is insane. She has no purpose. I'm so glad we lost so much time with such a pointless character, honestly. Oh, and guess what? It's time to introduce yet another pointless character. Good point, Maren admits. But it's hard to hate Luella. Plus, she bakes really good cake. She'll win Vizia over with butterscotch once we get to Aresia. Just watch. Who's Maren? Who's Luella? Who's Vizia? Maren and Vizia, I think we're supposed to know, but even to this day I don't remember them. I think Maren might be a Griffin flyer, and Vizia, I think, is a dragon rider, but I'm really not sure. And to be fair, I think Luella is like, this is the scene where we get introduced to her. I don't think we knew of her before then, or maybe we did and I don't remember. But it's also the scene where she dies. I mean, clearly she's going to die because this sentence is really trying really hard to make me like her. And yeah, she dies in like a scene or two, just like, you know, really forcing it that, oh no, she's really lovable, I swear. Oh no, are you gonna cry when she dies in a scene? Obviously not, obviously not. Because at this point there are too many characters I don't know who died randomly. So no, at this point I'm just reading the scene and I'm just like, I'm sorry, I don't know this character, I don't really care. Nothing matters in this book. Just honestly, introduce less characters and maybe I'll find it in myself to care again. But at this point, there are just too many. There are just too many characters, and they don't have any room to breathe, and they don't stand out. They're just like a mass of characters who are all the same, and I just, they're so irrelevant. I cannot care about all of them, especially if there's nothing memorable about them. And yes, after that we have like a scene where we pretend Ridoc is going to die, and it's just a scene that serves as proving that Violet is a martyr once again, by having someone fix her shoulder manually instead of using a mender, because you don't want to wait for Brennan. Dain takes hold of my arm. Brennan will try to mend me first, and Ridoc is dying. Now do it! I snap, bracing for the pain. So we're implying Brennan is an idiot just so Violet can be even more of a martyr. Why is this book? And we also have another scene where with Violet and Dain where he's just like, oh, are you sure you want to do this because you're wounded? And she's just like, and you're a memory stealer. And he's just like, what? And she's like, I thought we were stating the obvious. And again, I'm just like, oh my god, heaven forbids this poor guy asks you how you're doing or if you're sure you want to do something crazy while you're wounded. Like, why is she so petty with him when he does things that to me feel so normal for a friend to do? Anyway, after that, Sloane gets the resolution of her redemption arc. He was wrong to ask that of you. Sloane catches up, Vizia close behind. Who's Vizia? Because Imogen would have been a more capable protector, I asked, only able to hold her too familiar blue gaze for a heartbeat before looking away. No, because you already carried the weight of protecting Xaden's life. It was unfair of him to burden you with mine too. And then, damn, Kat says, glancing from the torch to the conduit to me. I hate that you're so badass, Sloane suggests, smiling in a way that reminds me of her brother. So yeah, it is what I said. Sloane concludes her redemption arc by becoming Violet's cheerleader. She goes from hating Violet to becoming one of her cheerleaders with like nothing in between. There is no transition. She just read her brother's journal and suddenly she loves Violet. It's a shitty character arc for a shitty character. What else do you want me to say? She's the most wasted character I've ever seen, at least in this book. Like it's just bad. It's terrible. I have no words. Honestly, what would have changed in this book if Sloane hadn't been a part of it? Nothing. That's what would have changed. Absolutely nothing. She's a waste of space. And honestly, that is true for like 80% of the characters in this book. And then we have yet another pointless conversation between Xaden and Violet, because obviously, how are we still having the same fight 5 months later? I shake my head. I know, right? It's almost like 90% of this book is nothing but filler. This is page 520, okay? 520. Sometimes I feel like I don't know you. I study the harsh lines of his face as his jaw flexes. How am I supposed to really love you if I don't know you? They've been having this conversation from page 1 every time they see each other, and this is page 520. They've been having this conversation for a whole book, and nothing has changed. Nothing. But I guess this conversation finally adds something to the table, because he finally reveals to her that he's a Marisu. He reveals to her that he has 2 powers, even though you're really supposed to only have 1 because he's a Marisu. And basically he reveals to her that his second power is that he is a mind reader, which Violet, super smart girl Violet, doesn't understand. She really just needs to drag the truth out of it, even though at this point, even I, who am not the sharpest pencil in the box, knows that he's the mind reader. Like, the amount of clues he gives throughout the whole conversation is just like enough to fill a stadium, and she does not pick up on it until he just has to spell it out for her. And I'm just like, this girl is supposed to be clever. Can she pick up on basic clues, please? But yeah, oh god, it's so good that most of the characters spend their time reminding me how clever she is, because honestly, otherwise I would forget that she's supposed to be clever. Like I'm forgetting 80% of the characters in this book. Also, yay, Xaden is constantly reading other people's minds and intentions, but Dain stealing memories is just completely unacceptable. Anyway, we are near the end of the book, finally. After that, the big bad general arrives to try and discuss with them. And there's actually a line that I thought was pretty cool, so trying to also praise the book where I felt like it can be praised, I'm gonna read it. He wears rage like it's part of his uniform. Which I think is a good line to describe this general. Credit where credit is due. I don't have a lot of positive things to say, but I will try to mention them every once in a while. So they do agree to have a meeting to discuss with General Augustine Melgren. Are you fucking kidding me? Augustine? So General Augustine Melgren, whose power is that he can anticipate the results of battles. And so he sees that the Venin will attack them at some point in the future and that they will win this battle. And so that's why he's coming over to the good guys and the rebellion to be like, oh well, clearly without you guys I'm going to lose this battle, so I'm asking you to help because with your help maybe I have a chance to win. Which I thought was a very interesting plot twist. I was actually pretty hyped about that because I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I thought he would be the main bad guy of this book. And so to have him come over and ask for help and for an alliance, I thought was really interesting. But of course the good guys have to rain on my parade and refuse because they are 12-year-olds and they just cannot stop being petty little divas, even though it makes no sense to refuse, because if the Navarre army loses, the Venins will have access to the dragon hatching grounds, which would be devastating for the good guys as well. So I don't know why they decide to refuse, but they decide to refuse. I'm just like, okay. But at some point, Violet just completely pulls out of her ass that the Venons are probably not planning on attacking this, I don't know how it's called, like Samara place that the general is supposed to lose at. I mean, they are planning to attack, but Violet just completely pulls out of her ass that it's a distraction, and that it's supposed to be a distraction from the real goal, which is to attack Basquiat College, to target the wards that are there. And she came to this conclusion because I think they took too long to attack. And this is one of the moments where she is just like, oh, she is so clever, so we're not gonna question this. And of course, because it's Violet, I was just reading and I was like, I don't understand the logic, but it's Violet, so she has to be right. She probably read the plot at some point. So yeah, because it's Violet and she has to be right, I was about to say relevant character, but every semi-relevant, allegedly relevant characters just follow her to Basquiat College to defend it, where she is greeted by her mum who is like the only general left to defend the Basquiat College because everyone else is at this place that's actually a distraction. And so basically they go to the ward to try and defend them in case of the impending attack that's going to arrive. And when they arrive, who do they find? At my greatest confusion, than Jack Barlow's dragon, who I couldn't remember the name of. So I was just like, wait, isn't that Jack Barlow's dragon? And then Jack Barlow arrives and kills his own dragon, so I was just like, oh, maybe it's not his dragon then. But yes, it is. He just kills it and then destroys the wards because he doesn't need his dragon anymore, because turns out he became a Venin at some point in book 1. And so that's what I mean when I said I think there is a reason why they brought him back. But even that, I'm not sure, because to me it still makes no sense. Like, did they know when they brought him back that he was a Venin? I'm assuming so. But why did they bring back a Venin, knowing that they are their enemies? And considering that the army is like so secretive about this Venin situation, even if they brought him back knowing that he is a Venin, why did they let him go back to school where he could have easily revealed that he's a Venin? And wouldn't they want to monitor him to make sure something like this doesn't happen? Like, if he's like part of the enemy, why wouldn't they check on him, make sure that he doesn't break the walls, make sure that he doesn't talk to people about, hey, Venins are real, I'm one of them? Like, these guys were so paranoid about Violet knowing about Venins, even though she had no proof. And this guy is a Venin, and they were just letting him run around unchecked. So yes, maybe they brought him back because he is a Venin, and they were like, oh, if we have a Venin on our side, maybe we have a bigger chance of being able to defeat the Venins. I can hear the argument, but why would they let him go in the middle of the other riders in training and just like completely unchecked, where he could have told anyone anything at any moment? Yeah, sorry, this makes zero sense to me, no matter how I look at it. If you have any explanation that makes it make sense, please tell me in the comments. I am very curious to know. But yeah, for me it's typically a case of like something that's written for the reader and not to make sense in the realm of the story in any freaking way. And I really don't like it. This is lazy writing. This is just for like plot twist and shock value and just bringing back like a villain that was so good in book 1 already, we need to make him come back. No, we didn't, because he was already lame in book 1 and now he's even worse. Yeah, anyway, sorry, I'm getting really heated. I don't like getting heated in these videos because I really want to enjoy these books and I really want to be nice about it, but I was just so frustrated reading this book that I feel myself getting heated just talking about it. Anyway, let's finish it because this is already way too long. They managed to subdue Jack and to like paralyze him or something, so he's not a threat anymore, but he did destroy the wards, sadly, so now they need to recreate the wards. But luckily Violet pulls out her mega brain and she realizes that actually they need like 7 different dragons to create the wards, but oh no, there are only 6 different types of dragons in existence, which are like the black ones, the blue ones, the orange ones, the cyan ones, the magenta ones, the rainbow ones, and there's no 7th type of dragon, so what are we gonna do? Guess. And Darna is the 7th type of dragon, because in this book, like in book 1 she was a baby, and in this book she like grew up into like a teenager dragon via going through the whatever it's called, the long sleep or something. So she got asleep for like half of the book, and when she comes back she's like just this blackish dragon, but like with different lighting on her scale, and it's basically, it means that she's like the 7th type of dragon, which is even more rare and special than the black dragons. So not only does Violet have like a super rare, super strong black dragon, but she also has her 2nd dragon that she shouldn't have in the first place, is like a super, even more rare type of dragon. So yeah, all good. They have the 7 types of dragon, so they can perform this ritual to like revive the wards. But the wards need a lot of energy to be brought back, so Violet's mom sacrificed herself. And God, it was such a confusing moment as well, because you have this very intense moment where Violet is just like, no, don't sacrifice my mom, and her mom is like, yeah, sacrifice me for some reason. There was something that could have been nice if we had given it even half a second of attention, which is like the tension between Brennan and his mother, because Brennan pretended to be dead for years, so when she sees him, her son, being alive after years of thinking he was dead, she was just like, speechless. And I thought it had the potential of being cool and interesting, but the book was just like, no, because they're not Violet or Xaden, so we don't care. And I was like, oh, sorry. I'm so sorry for thinking anything is going to be remotely interesting in this book. But yeah, so there was something nice to explore there, especially because I think Brennan was here when she died, and so there could have been this really emotional moment, but the only character we're interested in is Violet in this moment. Anyway, I'm losing the plot myself. So there's this whole scene where everyone is just like, oh my god, Violet's mom is dying, sacrificing herself for the world, and you have Brennan seeing it, and he's just like a bit like, you know, conflicted, which again could have been interesting. But then we're just like in the middle of this dramatic scene about Violet's mom dying. We just have a moment of like Violet being like, oh my god, Xaden is dying too, even though he's like at the opposite side of the school where she doesn't know what he's doing. And I was just like, what the fuck has Xaden got to do with anything in this scene? Like, your mum is dying, and Xaden is at the opposite side of the world. Why are we thinking about him suddenly? Don't do it! I cry. Sloane, that's my mother. This isn't happening. Maybe Sloane won't listen to me, but she'll listen to Xaden. I throw down my shields. Pain, agonizing, blistering pain roars down the pathway. Hopelessness and helplessness. It hits me from every angle, stealing my breath, overwhelming my senses and my strength. My body sags, my full weight in Aaric's arms, as my mind fights to separate Xaden's emotions from mine. I can't think around the pain, can't breathe for the tightness in my chest, can't feel the ground beneath my feet. Xaden's dying, I whisper. I feel like this book is just as confused as I am at this point. So yeah, it just completely cheapens the scene with the mother, and I was just like, cool. So we had to like reach out for Xaden, who's at the opposite side of the battlefield, just to have this moment that breaks completely the tension from the mother's scene, to just be like, oh my god, Xaden's dying, and by the way, like 5 lines later, he's better. So complete waste of time. I mean, no, because it prepares a plot twist again a bit later at the end of the book, which I think this book is just trying to do too much with not enough competence to pull it off. I'm sorry to say it. Like, I know it's very mean, and I'm sorry, but it's how I feel. It is how I feel. Anyway, Violet's mum dies, Xaden doesn't, and I'm confused. But hey, the wars are kind of working, so all's well that ends well, I guess. Because, I mean, the only characters who matter are alive, so... Except no, because the plot twist at the end is that Xaden, the moment that he was super hopeless is because apparently he was turning into a venom somewhere in the battlefield. And so the prologue is basically his perspective of the battle, revealing the moment where he turned into a venom. And then he goes to talk to Jack Barlow, and Jack Barlow, he is just like, we're brothers now. And that's the end of the book. yeah, I think I said everything I had to say, so let's just wrap it up. Yeah, there's nothing left to say that I haven't said already. I didn't have a good time reading this book. It really did feel like a chore every time I was reading it. I was just like, should I just DNF it? But then I just wanted to do the reviews because I started and my completionist brain is just like, no, you need to finish it. You need to keep reading those now. Also, sometimes it's just nice to read books that I don't enjoy to try and understand why I don't enjoy them. So I guess this book for me is going to be that, trying to understand what's wrong with it, so it sharpens your critical mind and you know what to avoid when you're writing your own story or something. But yeah, no, this book just really felt like filler. Nothing mattered, too many side characters, like I said, and it's just, why do we have so many side characters when we don't want to give room to any of them? Like, Sloane could have been interesting if we had explored a relationship with her a bit more and like trying to force Violet to connect with her and bond, but she had no interest in her other than keeping her alive. So there was no moment of them actually bonding. It was all with this like, oh, actually I read that my brother liked you, so I like you now. And then you have the whole relationship with the Violet's mum and Brennan, which could have been so interesting, but it's again not explored in the slightest because the only thing this book is ever interested in is Violet and Xaden, and I'm sorry, they're just not as that interesting as characters. They were okay-ish in book 1. In book 2 they just turn into complete Mary Sue and they just like completely swallow the rest of the story in the maelstrom of their existence. I just no, it's not for me. It's really not for me. Do I understand why other people like it? Yeah, I guess I can see some appeal if you just want to have something really self-indulgent where a character is just so special and just so interesting and so important and everyone likes them. It's just really self-indulgent in this regard, but I feel like some other stories do that and do it better as well. Because again, like, it's just, the first book I could say was entertaining. This one I cannot say it was entertaining. I was not entertained. I was bored reading this. And I just feel like nothing matters. I can't give you one thing that I think happened in this book that I would say genuinely mattered. So yeah, no, waste of time as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, anyway, that's it for Iron Flame. Leave a like if you've enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more of my face, and thanks for tuning in, and continue to enjoy stories.